Welcome back to another Figma tutorial. In this video, we'll be covering effects you can apply to layers and objects to change or adjust their appearance. This can especially be helpful when you are working to improve the appearance or aesthetics of the design. Let's start with shadows today. So, in Figma, there are two kinds of shadow, that is inner shadow and a drop shadow. So, I'll demonstrate how you can apply it. So first of all, I have a button here which itself looks decent, but we might be able to call a bit more attention to it through use of drop shadow. So what I will do is I'll select the button. In buttons layer I can see there is a rectangle. I'll select it, and then on my right side I have different options. So you need to select the effects option. When you will click on the effects option, by default the drop shadow will get applied. Now if I'll click here, you can see I have four options. So right now we are going to see inner shadow first. So I'll just select inner shadow. So what inner shadow does is, if you can see closely, inner shadow applies a shadow on the inside of the button. So let's say the button right next to inner shadow is the one which will give us effect setting. So for effect settings, let's say I have an X option. This is the X coordinate of the inner shadow. So let's say if I will keep it as 12, so you can see from the left side the shadow has been applied till 12 pixels. Let's say if I keep it as minus 12, it will go on the right side. Same goes with Y. If I'll keep it as 10, you can see it has come down 10, and if I'll keep it as minus 10 or let's say minus 19, it will be applied on the opposite side. So, but generally whenever we are making a button, we don't apply this much big amount of X and Y coordinates to it. So I'll just give X as 0, or let's say we'll keep it as 2, and Y will keep it as 4. Now, the blur option. The blur option will blur the inner shadow that has been applied to the button. So for demonstrating that, I'll just change the value to let's say 20. So you can see now it has changed. Let's say if I'll keep it to, you can see it's quite visible here. If I'll do it 200, yeah. So the blurriness has been increased to such a level that the whole button has changed its color. But normally what blurriness I can keep it as 4 is what I like. And this is the button where you can change the color of the shadow. So right now the shadow color is black. If you want, you can change it. Let's say if I want to keep it as red. So you can see there is a red tint, right? So and the next button right next to the color is the amount of opacity. So if I'll change the opacity to 100, the red will be visible. If I'll keep it as let's say 20, it won't be visible. To make this button look good, I'll keep it as 20 and I'll change the red value to black. So now you can see this button looks like it has been embedded in the screen. So this was for inner shadow. So now let's see how drop shadow works. So for drop shadow, I'll just go here. For the timing, I'll just close the inner shadow, turn it off, and now we'll apply the rectangle drop shadow. So how does drop shadow work? We'll go, if you can see, the drop shadow is basically the shadow outside the button. So right now I can see the drop shadow has been applied here, right? It's quite visible. So I'll just select rectangle. Again, I'll click on this icon, which is effect settings. It will show me a settings option. So here again, it goes same. If I'll change X to let's say 20, it will go on the right side. Let's say I will change it as minus 20, it will go on the left side. Y also works the same way. Let's say I will keep it as 20, 23 goes on down, and if I'll keep it as minus 23, it will go up. Blur also works the same way here. If I'll keep it as blur as 200, you can see it has been blurred. If I'll keep it as 20, it's quite visible now. Spread is the amount, how much you want it to spread. So let's say if I'll keep it as 100, it will spread totally, right? But right now I'll keep it the spread as 0, blur as 20. I'll keep it Y as 2. I'll keep this also 2. So let's say I'll keep it as 4. Yeah. So now if you can see the button, we'll check is it popping out or not. So I'll just turn off the layer. You can see the difference, right? So drop shadows and inner shadows are basically used to give depth to the design. If I'll give a drop shadow, it will look like it is popping out. If I will give an inner shadow, it will look like it's embedded inside. So if you want to see the difference right now, I'll show you. Let's say if I'll give inner shadow, it looks like it's been embedded, right? If I'll turn it off, it's normal. If I'll turn it on drop shadow, it will look, it is popping out. So this is how drop shadow and inner shadow works. So we'll now move on towards the remaining two effects, that is layer blur and background blur.